Hey, good evening. Thank you for joining us on the Political Deep Dive. I am Dave Valente, and of course, we are joined this week by Dan, the man, Fishman.
Hey, what's up, guys?
What is going on? And of course,
I'm excited.
From the great state of Tennessee, AJ, who's, Tennessee's not been that great lately, but
Tennessee's kind of sucking, but I'm cool.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. So
it's still pretty great.
It's well, as long as AJ's there, it's still pretty great. So
it is the greenest state in the land of the free, according to Davy Crockett. I thought I mentioned that.
Is it?
That might be slightly outdated.
Yeah,
it's pretty
just,
green,
just a smidge.
All right,
so, it is pretty great, and I grew up in the nursery capital of the world, so
all right,
you're not far off.
So, did you know that the Political Deep Dive has an official merch shop?
I did not know that. Is there a link?
There is a link.
Oh, that's awesome.
Check out this QR code. It is Lou Dog Design on Etsy. So scan the QR code, grab out your camera, take a picture of that QR code. It'll take you right to the design shop. Great gear for not just the Political Deep Dive, but for all kinds of political stuff. So head on over there. AJ, talk about some of the stuff you got on there.
All right. Well, we did touch on this just a bit. I'm from Tennessee, and what's Tennessee known for lately? The Republicans have lost their effing minds. That's what we're known for right now. So I have all of the T-shirts that you could possibly need in Tennessee for when the State House decides that once again, we cannot bring signs. We can wear our signs. There are several different designs that are available. Most of them are very anti-Republican. Also has some cutesy little bags and some woke as fuck merch, along with our political deep dive, of course.
That is awesome.
We do have hoodies coming up because it's going to get cold, and I don't want any of my protesters out there catching a cold. So go get you a hoodie.
Awesome. Hoodies are the best.
That is good stuff. Yeah, and it is hoodie season. We have just crossed into fall, so get out there and get your hoodies before they are gone. I love hoodies. So, all right, let me pop that off, and we'll put a little QR code up there, up in the top there. Yeah, there we go. So if you still want to
Adam,
check out
you were absolutely right. I was quoting the theme song from the Davy Crockett TV show, the Davy Crockett Disney movie.
What up, Louie? All right. So our guest this week is no stranger to anybody who is involved in libertarian politics, the fight for liberty throughout the country. It is the man, the myth, the legend, Nick Sarwark. You're dark, Nicholas.
I think at this point in time, he is self-identifying as a black rectangle. Nick will be here momentarily. We're going to fill, I will say, I first met Nick in person in 2014 at the convention where he became chair. There was a lot of campaign. And what people don't know is that actually the election right before that in 2012, Nick gave a speech that is legendary in libertarian circles. He gave the NOTA speech. And people who don't know anything about libertarian politics know that in every libertarian election, NOTA, which stands for none of the above, has to be an option on the ballot. And somebody is selected to speak for NOTA. And so Nick got up and he said, I'm here to speak for nobody, none of the above. And he said, when we talk about nobody, let me ask you this. who do you think should raise your taxes?
Nobody.
Nobody.
No.
Who do you think should be in charge of your life?
Nobody.
Nobody. Right? Is there anybody else that you trust to make decisions for you? Or is that something that maybe you say nobody should make decisions for me? I'm up here to ask you to vote for nobody. I'm paraphrasing a little bit. But to make a long story short, the speech was so good that neither candidate running for chair won. NODA won the chair election. And so then they had to have a new election for chair. And in our rules, that means all the people who had campaigned for chair before couldn't run the second time.
We're ineligible. Yeah.
Yep. And so Jeff Neal became chair in 2012. And Jeff's a great guy, and he did a good job. And then in 2014, Nick became chair. And so I met Nick.
3 terms as chair, and I honor meeting him and working with him as a state chair. But Nick, can you, first off, can you hear us? All right, so at the bottom of your screen, there should be like a microphone or and a camera logo. Try and click on those and see if that. Oh. Yeah, still not seeing Nick.
My suggestion, Nick, would be to come in on your phone for right now. Might be the easiest thing to do. Yes, Adam makes a great point. Nick is a second generation libertarian,
Yes.
which there aren't many of them. But what's also interesting is that he has 4 kids. And as his wife Valerie said, she's going to breed them for freedom. So they are raising 3rd generation libertarians,
There we
which
go.
is awesome because I
work?
reflexively, that's him. Hey,
That's
Nick.
it.
Hey, it works.
Awesome.
It only takes like 3 browsers, and eventually I'll get in. That's awesome.
Yeah. Sometimes these Restream and StreamYards are a little finicky when it comes to browsers.
Did you get to hear us filling though?
I
Loud
did.
in your
I heard the
praises?
vamping. I heard you saying nice things about me. You
Right.
don't have to lie. It's not
Well-
necessary.
That's okay because the next 2 minutes are going to be about your ears. So
Oh no,
Just kidding.
no.
And good yontif to you too, Adam.
yes, that's right. Happy New Year.
Somebody
to those
should
who
be
are celebrating,
fasting.
and I'm going to
You're
make sure that I have
not.
something to atone for tomorrow.
Well,
I was a
So-
dick. I'm sorry.
Yes. Although it is interesting because, that idea of having a tradition of a day that you really should try to say, what do I have to apologize for? It's a good idea.
It's
Right,
a good
'cause
idea. I mean, who doesn't go through the year and have many things that they should say sorry for?
Yep.
I feel like all of us do.
Well,
so I mean, I think that you can take through a lot from a lot of different things. I mean, even Festivus, where you have the airing of grievances, I think is somewhat useful. But also having the days of atonement to talk about what you should
Yeah, it's my bad.
apologize for. Yeah,
It's my bad. I fucked up. I'm sorry.
Yep.
My bad.
exactly.
And really, literally, that's kind of the thing that everybody does on Yom Kippur is like, my bad. I'm an asshole. I'm sorry. If you're mad, I'm sorry.
right.
And we're done.
Right. And that's the important part of it is that it's not just right. Janice is going to start singing now. It's not just but that's exactly it, is that it's not just the apologizing part of it, but as Janice said, it's the other side of it that then you have to let it go, accept the apology and move on. Because a lot of times there are people who want to make peace with you, and you don't want to make peace. But having a day that you say, at least I'm going to think about it, it's a good idea. So I would just
Good
want to
enough.
take this opportunity, since we brought it up, to apologize for everything. There's a lot, but
May you be sealed. Now let's move on through the thing.
Yeah.
Come on, let's do this thing.
Let's do
Come on.
this thing.
Come on.
So
We got time. I'm sorry, I'm late.
no, you're
Let's-
good.
let's-
You're good. So let's talk
Hang it
about
out.
let's talk about since you left being chair of the Libertarian Party, you started the Libertarian Party Institute, a Policy Institute. I'm sorry. Tell us about that and why you formed that group.
Sure. So I was chair of the Libertarian National Committee from 2014 until 2016, and then from 2016 until 2018, and then from 2018 until 2020. And then I said, I don't need to do this anymore. I'm kind of done with this. My mom helped a lot, and she's fasting, so she's totally not watching this. But like, there's a point where you're done with doing the thing, right? Like, you've done the thing. Everyone knows you know how to do the thing, and you got to kind of be done doing the thing because they can't appreciate you anymore after 2020. And that was kind of where I got to, was they can't appreciate me. Nobody's going to say nicer things about me than they did before. I got to be done. Like, I'm out. Whatever. Let Joe Bishop Henchman do the thing. And we talked before he ran. And so that was okay. But man, when you're done doing that thing, you got to do another thing. And so the other thing I came up with doing was like, hey, people used to say, man, I would totally vote for you because you have all the good positions on the policies, but damn, if you're not running in a bad party, and so y'all aren't going to win, so I won't vote for you. But I totally want everything you want to do, but I won't vote for you. But I'm really into like all the policies that you want to support, but can't vote for you because you're not going to win. And so when I left the chairmanship of the Libertarian National Committee, it's like, hey, I can start a nonprofit where I just do all the policies that everyone loves and none of the party shit. It's like, run whatever party you want. I don't care. We're totally going to do the policy without the party. And that's kind of where we're at now. Libertarian Policy Institute and Libertarian Policy Foundation are there to get libertarian shit done, but technically in a nonpartisan way. So we're not supporting any particular political party. We're just like, you should legalize weed, and you should make more charter schools be opened, and you should repeal grocery taxes. And gosh, if those aren't all libertarian things to do, and run however you want. You want to run as libertarian? That's cool. You want to run as a Democrat, Republican, DSA? I don't care. Just get the stuff done.
Yeah.
And so it's been really nice to kind of shift from, I've got to carry this whole big burden of the Libertarian Party and whatever that means. And I don't know. It seems like lately maybe it means some things that I don't like. But yeah, I don't have to do that. I'm just like, yeah, just legalize weed. Anyone can legalize weed. I don't care whether you're a libertarian or Republican or Democrat. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So that's been fun.
I mean, like for me, when the Oberfeld decision came down, I wasn't like, oh well, it was 3 Democrat or 4 Democrat Supreme Court justices that passed it. I was just happy that it got done. That's what I'm looking for, is to get the thing that I want done. I don't care whose mantle it falls on, as long as it's done.
It doesn't matter who did it.
Yeah.
It got done. Good enough.
Exactly. So you are joining us from the state of Mississippi, are you not?
I am. I'm in Biloxi.
Biloxi, are you?
And it is a weird ass place.
Have you gone down to gamble yet?
I've gambled a little bit. It hasn't gone so well.
Yeah.
That just means you're due to win more.
That's what people say, but they're liars. No, mostly that just means I'm going to lose more. No, we've been down here in Biloxi. We did a Amplify training earlier this weekend, bringing in leaders from Mississippi and Alabama and other places around the South to show them how to run as candidates who are supporting a libertarian policy agenda, which is different from, although sometimes happens to look the same as running as a libertarian, right? Like if you want to make there be more educational options in Mississippi and you want to repeal the grocery tax and you want to
Legalize cannabis. Cannabis isn't legal in Mississippi.
legalize cannabis for adults, you want to do those three things, I really don't give a shit whether or not you're running as a libertarian or a Democrat or as a Republican or as anything else, because it doesn't matter. Those are the things we're trying to do as libertarians. Those are the policy ideals we're trying to implement. And if you need to run as a Republican because that's going to make it easier for you, totally cool with me. That's the beauty of running a nonpartisan nonprofit,
Yep.
where you just move the ball down the field and you really don't care what color jersey the guys running the ball down the field are. And it's been just absolutely delightful for me.
Yeah, I was there for quite a bit of your, especially the last 4 years of your tenure, and the stuff that you dealt with on a day-to-day basis with the Libertarian Party. So I can absolutely see why all of doing this is quite freeing. So talk about Amplify training. What do people get when they go to Amplify training? What are they kind of without revealing all the secrets of what they would get during the training, but give us kind of a broad overview of what goes on with the Amplify training.
Yeah, we start at about 8 a.m. in the morning, and we go all the way until about 6. So you're looking at a solid 8 to 10 hours of actual content. And it's everything from how do you identify the voters that you need to contact, to how do you do your fundraising, to how do you describe your message about who you are as a candidate. The story of us, kind of like a hook, us, everybody, looping it back around, do a lot of messaging training. It's basically a fire hose.
Mm-hmm.
There's about, a solid full-on day in which you're just going to absorb all of this information about how you can run for office effectively from people who have collectively raised well over $1 million in money for candidates and run, 10, 20, 30 campaigns for public office. Like, you're really getting it from the source. And the whole goal of the training is, you don't have to run in a particular party. We're showing you how to take popular issues like legalizing cannabis, or like expanding public charter schools, or like repealing a grocery tax, where the people are already on your side. And now you're the only candidate running against some incumbent politician that doesn't want to fix these problems. And that's really where our sweet spot is. The Libertarian Policy Institute and the foundation are teaching people how to be that only option, right? You can either have totally crappy establishment politician be in charge of your county or state or whatever district it is, or you can have somebody that wants to legalize weed and make food go on your table without having the government take tax money out of it, or, expand out the number of educational options for your kids, right? These are things that people really want. And we're going out there and literally recruiting people and saying, we're not waiting for somebody to run on these issues. We're asking you, hey, David, you know what? Nobody's running in your district. You should run. Get up there. Come on, sign up. And, that's a big shift.
One of the interesting things about it is I have found occasionally I will meet people who are opposed to legalizing cannabis for whatever reason. That's their thing. But the grocery tax, have you ever met anybody who supported the grocery tax?
It's pretty rare. Before we go and get involved in a state, we talk to all of these state policy network think tanks in the state. We try and figure out what other people are doing. And the grocery tax is one of those things that something like 80% of the people in Mississippi want it to go away.
Wow.
Like, it's ridiculous how unpopular the idea of taking food off of the table for poor working families is. And yet, it's still a thing. And until we put up candidates who are going to run against incumbent politicians and say, look, this isn't okay, it doesn't get fixed. Here's the thing. We looked at Alabama. In Alabama, the Democrats have been trying to repeal that grocery tax for probably about 20 years. And the Republicans always say no, because they get to say no, because the truth is there aren't a lot of Democrats in Alabama. And so they get to be like, fuck you. And we ran candidates in Alabama in 2022. We got about 69 that we recruited. Maybe 62, 63 actually made it through and, didn't have paperwork problems. But one of those was a lady named Ruth Page Nelson. And she's an African-American woman. She ran for lieutenant governor in a two-way race against the incumbent Republican. And she got about 15% of the vote, 85-15. It's not like he was really scared, like he wasn't going to lose. But goddamn, if in 2023, that guy who was a Republican, who had never been interested in repealing the grocery tax, never wanted to do that, because it's a Democrat thing. We don't do that shit. In 2023, that same Republican lieutenant governor shepherds through a 25% reduction in the grocery tax across the state of Alabama, with almost unanimous votes in both the state House and the state Senate, because we pushed him from a direction he wasn't getting it before. Right? The Democrats had always asked for a grocery tax to be repealed, but they don't care because those are Democrats. Now we get Ruth up there. She gets about 15% of the vote, but she doesn't get it from the Democratic side.
Right.
She gets it as a libertarian. She comes at him and she says, it's not right that you should tax food. And that hit, that 15% from the direction that they weren't expecting it, all of a sudden, come to Jesus moment. Lieutenant Governor's like, yeah, we got to get rid of this grocery tax. Let's reduce it by 25%. Let's get that done.
Which, of course, only government thinks I solved the problem by reducing it by 25% instead of actually getting rid of it.
It could have been better. But it wasn't getting done until we did the thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
They weren't even talking about it before you guys were there.
That's what we're all about with the Libertarian Policy Institute. It's not about, it's a libertarian candidate. It happened to be in Alabama, but it doesn't have to be. It's about if there's enough people stepping up and going, we should stop taxing food, or we should stop locking people up because they smoked weed, or we should expand out the number of public charter schools that kids can go to for better educational options. If you agree with us on those things, I don't care whether you're Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, it doesn't matter to me. Get the shit done. It's just so much better than carrying all that baggage of a political party.
So,
it doesn't matter.
One of the things I want to know is with the Libertarian Policy Institute is with the things that you're advocating, like the grocery tax and cannabis. There are think tanks like ALEC that have pre-made legislation to send out to people to propose once if they're lucky enough to get elected. Does the LPI have something along those lines?
So ALEC actually writes the legislation, but it tends to be pretty Republican based. No offense to them, it's just that's how it ends up working. We don't so much write the legislation, we kind of step it back a step from the writing the legislation to say, look, this is what we want to get done, right? Like you stop taxing groceries or you make it legal to consume cannabis. And then we're going to let those legislators run it through the legislative study committee and the various groups that they have to write that legislation. We're not going all the way to the level that Alec is of writing the bill for them. If you go to the research department and you say, look, I want there to not be a tax on groceries, they're going to write you a bill that'll do the thing, right? And so we're not, what we like to talk about is we're more of a do tank than a think tank.
Nice.
Love it.
That's a great
I
phrasing.
don't figure out whether or not it's a good idea to not tax groceries. I just try and stop it from ever happening. Right? Other people can write the long paper about whether or not it's a good idea or not. I just think it's wrong. And so we're just going to stop it.
So talk about Amplify training. Are there future Amplify trainings coming up that people can get involved with?
There are. We have had, just in this month, we've been out in Long Beach, California. We did Biloxi, Mississippi earlier this weekend. And we're going up to Westport, Massachusetts next week on the 30th. And the whole goal of Amplify training is it is completely nonpartisan, like legit nonpartisan, not pretend nonpartisan like some people are. We really don't care what party you decide to run as. We teach you everything that you need for basic campaigning skills, like you would get from Leadership Institute or Repower, depending on which side of the aisle you're on, targeting voters, raising money, things like that. But we also teach you how to run for office on a very focused, tight set of 1, 2, 3 issues that are popular in your state, right? Like Mississippi, for example, 2023, there are candidates running in Mississippi. We did a Golden Spike recruitment drive here. We got 17 candidates, which is the most that have run from outside the old parties in over 100 years since the socialists back in 23. And we have 3 issues, right? You want to legalize cannabis, you want to make it easier to open up charter schools, and you want to repeal the grocery tax. And we're just pushing, do those 3 things. We don't care if you run as a Democrat or a Republican or a Libertarian or an independent. It doesn't matter, because we're focusing on the most popular things that people want done that their establishment politicians are not going to do for them, right? Like if you go to a place like Mississippi or Massachusetts, which is basically the opposite of Mississippi, it's like an inverse.
All blue
right? It's all
instead of all red.
You go to these places and there's shit that the people want done that the government's just not going to do because it's one party or the other party, and they don't have to do anything because nobody runs against them. Something like 4 out of 5 legislative offices in 2019 were uncontested after the primary in Mississippi. Like 80% of the people here have never even seen an opponent. Like not like they fought it out. They don't know what an opponent is. They're just, I'm the guy because I'm the Republican and that's the only guy that runs. And so we're kind of bringing this to the table and going, it's not good enough to just be the guy. We want you to fix these 1, 2, 3 issues. And by keeping it real tight, even if our candidates don't get elected, right? Like Ruth Page Nelson in Alabama, in 2022, she got 15% of the vote, right? That doesn't scare anybody. 15%, she ain't winning. But that 15% came from a different direction than the Democrats. And that's what pushed that Republican lieutenant governor in the safe seat to go and push this grocery tax reduction through. He got hit from a direction he wasn't expecting it. And that's kind of what the LPI Amplify training is about, is how do we come at things from a direction they're not going to expect, finding issues that have 60 to 80% support from the public already, right? Like, we're already on the right side of shit. And how do you just focus on that policy movement, right? Not you, not Dave or Dan or AJ or whoever. Like, it's not about you. I just want to fix these things other people haven't fixed. And that kind of run, it's so positive, right? People can't be mad at you. All you're doing is saying, they aren't fixing shit. I'm going to fix it.
And the interesting thing, I think, is that, all the time people who have either supported third-party candidates or supported lost causes have been told, well, if you vote for this, your vote doesn't count. But here you've got an example that the 15% of the people who voted for Ruth, their vote absolutely was counted by that guy who said, wow, these votes, I could get them if I were more responsive to the people who are voting.
Right.
And, and by carrying water after an election, even if it is not a close election, carrying the water after the election probably in their mind says, well, I won't get a challenge from that person again, or I won't get a challenge from that side again if I carry the water. Now, doesn't mean that they won't get a challenge, because as we talked about in Alabama, it was only 25%. There's still more to do. But the conversation started.
But in a lot of these southern states, you got like 4 years between cycles.
Yeah.
Right? 2019 to 2023 in Mississippi, for example, or 2018 to 2022 in Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we're doing with having Libertarian Policy Institute state directors and focusing on these issues after the election cycle is over is we loop back around to these candidates who have beaten our candidates, right? They won. Yeah, you're back in the office. Hey, by the way, there's about 35% of us that voted for the other guy because of this problem. Why don't you fix it? Right? And that ongoing push, year after year, month after month, all the way through that cycle, that's the difference that the Libertarian Policy Institute is trying to put in place, where it's not just, yeah, we ran some people for office, like we put more candidates on the ballot than the Democrats. We do that from time to time. It's a cool little, we did the thing. But that's not the real thing. The real thing is our people care about this shit getting done. And if you don't do it, we're going to call and yell at you. And if you don't respond, we're going to run a candidate against you. And if you don't win, we're going to keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing, right? We make it clear what our goals are for changing policy and moving in a more libertarian direction. We don't care whether or not libertarians actually get the office. You can be Democrats or Republicans. We don't care. Just do the thing, right? It's very transactional almost. And that's what I kind of love about this whole nonpartisan existence that I'm in right now, is I don't care about whether or not the party does well. I just want to get the shit done. If I get the shit done, it can be Republicans, Democrats, socialists, libertarians. I don't care. Just get it done.
So Adam Balling actually puts an interesting comment talking about extracting concessions like Angela McArdle has talked about and who she's worked with. And I have plenty of disagreements with who she's worked with and what she's done as chair, but that's another conversation. That is the other thing when it comes to politics. It's not just, we run as a party or, whatever party you are a member of, or an independent, not just putting out your positions, but then working with people, because you can't get anything done unless you're willing to work with people. You're not going to have, and the Republicans are in some states do have an advantage where they can do whatever they want to because they've got super majorities, but you still have to be able to work with people and to make that case of why something should get done. This is excellent tactic of, we've run somebody, they've garnered the support, and if you want to have that support, then do the thing.
Right.
Removing the political side out of it too, and removing the party side out of it, there's such an urgent need around this thing, because you don't have to, you'd have to be living under a rock to not hear how people are being affected by inflation and grocery prices. And here's the thing that offers immediate relief by getting government out of the way. And I'm guessing, Nick, Mississippi and Alabama are not the only states that have grocery taxes.
No, there are sadly 13
Wow.
out of our 50 states in the United States still tax groceries. And, there's an old Reagan line, right? Like, if you want more of something, you subsidize it. And if you want less of something, you tax it, right? Like, that's pretty standard shit, right? Like, subsidizing makes more, taxing makes less. But groceries are literally what you put on the table for your kids, right? So if you tax that shit, you are taking food off the table for kids. Like, who does that? And Mississippi, of all those 13 states, the highest tax in the entire country, 7%.
And the poorest state in the entire country.
In the poorest state in the country. If I spend $100 at the grocery store, $7 goes to Tate Reeves so he can give it to Brett Favre.
Right.
I've heard. Maybe that's a thing that happened. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
but they don't need that money. I need that money, right? Like, I want to put that on my table for my kids.
Well,
That's
a perfect
eggs.
example. We were talking about this the other day about what the price of a dozen eggs is right now.
Yeah.
You're talking about the price of 5 dozen eggs. Okay, 5 dozen cheap eggs, but 5 dozen eggs right now is $7. That makes a big difference in a family's personal economy, right? The ability to have 60 more eggs around the house during the next 2 weeks. And yet,
totally.
Somehow government says, no, we'd rather have those eggs for ourselves.
And Mississippi, like many states, has something like a $3 billion surplus.
Yep.
Right? They don't even know how to spend all the money they got.
And
that's how bad it is. We just have to say, look, this is bullshit. Stop taxing food. Just stop. Just end it. Right? And one of the things that I'm so excited about, even though, it's not my deal, we're nonpartisan, but Brandon Presley, the Democratic candidate for governor, took our issue. He's all in on ending the grocery tax, right? Like, we didn't tell him to do it, but he saw a good idea and he's doing it. And that's the kind of movement we're seeing with the Libertarian Policy Institute, where, we don't care who gets the credit. We just want the things to be better.
Exactly. Getting shit done. Absolutely. So you talked about state chapters of the Libertarian Policy Institute. How many state chapters do you have, and where do you need help? And if people are wanting to help, how do they help?
So the best way to go is info@libertarianpolicy.org. That is the email address that we all see, so everybody will get it and we'll be able to help you out. We have state directors in, oh gosh, Alabama, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Mississippi, Iowa.
California.
Can't remember if we got California yet. We do have Florida. It's a bunch. But if we don't have a state chapter director in your state and you want to be the state chapter director, just send an email. We'll hook you up, right? Like, we're trying to hit all 50 states because one of the things that I observed in my time as national chair was we were out in front of things like gay marriage or things like cannabis legalization, and we didn't take enough credit for it. And that's a problem with our marketing as libertarians. But the bigger thing is, do you ever need to take credit for it? If the thing gets fixed, like, who cares who did it, right? You know, I'm happy being this tiny little think tank that nobody knows about that accidentally gets a bunch of shit done, right? I don't need the credit. It's not important, right? What's important is in your state, and it doesn't matter what state you're in, right? Whether it's West Virginia or Maryland or Mississippi or New Hampshire or whatever, there's gonna be some stuff that the establishment politicians who are in charge are not gonna fix, right? They just aren't gonna fix it, whether or not it's because of unions or their policy positions or whatever. They're just not fixing it. But the people in the state really want those things fixed, right? Like, they want more educational options, or they want to stop locking people up for weed. And what LPI does is identifies those 1, 2, 3 issues in your state that are so popular and so not going to get done by the establishment. And then we give the tools to people to run for public office and say, look, I'm not here to talk to you about transgenders or, you know, abortion or guns or any of these big culture war things. I've got 1, 2, 3 things I want to get done. They're going to make our state better. That's the only reason I'm running, right? It's not about me. I just want to get these things done. And when we set out, you know, Alabama, in 2022, we recruited, I think, 69 candidates, probably about 62, 63 actually were on the ballot because there's stuff that comes up. We put up more candidates than the Democrats did to just say, look, we're going to do things different, right? And that whole idea of just showing up and saying, look, we want to do things different. We want to make things better for people. If we can establish that as our brand as libertarians, broadly speaking, right? Like, not partisan, but just anyone who supports freer markets and more options for people. If we establish ourselves as the people who have a good idea for how to fix things, we'll blow right past everybody else, right? Because they got no ideas for fixing things. They're all about fighting each other, right? Like, Democrats suck. No, Republicans suck. No. We're like, I don't care who sucks. Legalize the weed. Stop arresting people for smoking weed, right? Like, I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. Just don't do that stupid shit. That's the positioning we've got here. And the Amplify training is really teaching people all the basics that you would get from a normal campaign training from, say, Leadership Institute or Repower, depending on which side of the aisle you're on. We hit all that shit. But what we really focus on is you're going to be out there in a one-on-one race against somebody who's never had an opponent before. and you're going to push on 1, 2, 3 issues that people really want fixed, and you're going to be the only one pushing that. And that's amazing, right? There's no downside to running for office as an Amplify candidate, right? No one's going to be mad at you because you wanted to like make there be more educational options in your state. You know, yeah, the guy you ran against, he might not like you personally, but you know, all you're doing is saying, look, we want an option. And you're not going to win, probably. Most people don't. But you're definitely going to push that other guy to kind of lean your direction after they get reelected. They're going to go, well, you know, I wasn't really into the grocery tax thing, but all of a sudden I got this great idea and we're going to reduce it.
Yeah, and plus
the great idea.
Well, I mean, like you're running head to head against a Republican in a state that is heavily Republican, and you're talking about tax reduction, and you're putting them in the position to defend a tax, which is, you know, even if you're the most Trumpy of Trumpy Republicans, it still kind of gives you the not so fresh feeling. So, you know, it's definitely using leverage of stuff that they should be for, the policies they should be advocating for, that they said that they're going to advocate for when they probably first got elected, and now you're holding them to account to do the thing.
Yeah.
So
it's fun.
It is.
I enjoy it.
It is fun when you hold a politician to account for something they said they would do and haven't quite delivered on it. So let's see. We'll use a little bit of time to talk about what. So, I mean, you do pay attention to what has gone on with the Libertarian Party over the last 2 years, especially. But you know, at the time when you know the Unite the White thing happened in Charlottesville, and you know, out of the ashes of that rose a caucus, pack, whatever they want to call themselves, the Mises Caucus. Did you ever foresee them getting to the point where they would take over the Libertarian Party?
Yeah, I kind of knew they were going to win in May of 2022, right? Even though there was a push against that and there were some efforts made to try and stop it, they put up, I mean, estimates range. They probably put about $500,000 into getting people out to Reno to get that done. And they got it.
Yeah.
$500,000.
$500,000. That's amazing.
Plus or minus. But here's the deal. They won, right? They got the whole thing. They got the entire LNC. There's no, you know, rear guard action against them. They own it. And so everything they do from May 2022 to now is all them.
Right.
And that's what's going to be the thing that blows them up next May. Is there's no world in which you can make the case that the LNC, the Libertarian National Committee, that took power in May of 2022, has done anything good for the party. You know what? A year and a half in?
Yeah.
Like, not a goddamn thing. Literally everything they've done has been shitty, right? There's nothing that worked. There's not a thing that worked. They're losing money. They are violating various laws. They have no idea what they're doing. And that's as it should be, right?
Yeah.
By their fruits, you shall know them. I've heard somebody said.
I object to referring to them as fruits, but no, I'm sorry.
So, I mean, but look at it. I still don't. I'm still very down on the prospects for 24, though.
Yeah, it'll be over when it's over. Right? Like, here's the thing. Do you see anything that is going to bolster the re-election of anyone from the Mises Caucus next May?
Other than the fact that they
Any
control a
good
lot of
thing
states.
they can,
And they
huh?
other than they control a lot of, especially larger states, especially California, especially Pennsylvania.
They control a few states, whatever. But like, is there any reason that anyone would vote for them?
Should?
If
No,
you're
absolutely not.
objectively looking at it, right? Like, obviously, if you're already a hometown guy for the Mises Caucus, you're going to vote for him no matter what. But they haven't gotten more money. They haven't gotten better candidates. They haven't gotten more voters. They don't have more members. Like, literally nothing's going well. And there's no, the cavalry isn't coming, right? It's very much like Russia and Ukraine. You know, yeah, they're kind of at a stalemate. Sure. Yeah, they're going back and forth. But you know what? Ain't nothing going better for Russia anytime soon. And everything good's going for Ukraine, right? Like, it's a momentum thing. Very similar to sports as you get close to a playoff, right? Whoever's got momentum is going to win. And whoever doesn't have momentum is going to lose. And there's no momentum behind the Mises Caucus. They have not achieved anything they wanted to achieve.
No, absolutely
right?
not.
There's nothing that they can point to and go, yeah, we did the thing. There's no thing.
They had their big rally, man. They had their war.
They did support President Putin with a rally on the Lincoln Memorial.
They had a rally downtown in DC, and there was that second one down in New York City, and they were basically the same thing, both rallies, and nobody gives a shit.
They managed,
right? Like, that's it.
They managed to sue a lot of libertarians. Yeah, I mean, but it's true. The thing is, my happiness, my serenity around the whole thing is this broad coalition. All right, here's a good history story. 1453 is the fall of Constantinople. Okay. And that is considered the start of the Renaissance.
Was it Istanbul?
Yeah.
It
was called.
No, it was Constantinople.
Exactly.
But been a long time gone.
Considered the start of the Renaissance because all the scholars from the Eastern Roman Empire fled and came back to Europe. In many ways, a lot of what happened was you look at all these liberty organizations, liberty movements that started because of the collapse of the Libertarian Party. Libertarian Policy Institute, I will humbly suggest Let.Live, Dave's show, The Political Deep Dive. You can look at a lot of things like this. And all the people who are out there, and we're finding a way to, we talked about Yom Kippur, looking back on the things that had happened beforehand and said, maybe we can own a piece of what happened, that there was a feeling, a discontent, whatever, finding a way to bring that back. I don't know if the party's coming back in 2024. What I know is that it doesn't have to come back for us to still be able to do good deeds and good work. And that's what I'm encouraged by the most.
So here's the thing. If you're Jewish, and not everybody is, more is the pity for both of you. One of the duties that you have in the world is tikkun olam, which is roughly translated, repairing the world, right? Like fixing what is broken. And we can, as libertarians, as people who care about other people in our world, right, who are at this apex of we're so far beyond everything that's come before us, right? Like things that happened 10 years ago, we're just light years beyond that. We can look at this and go, these are the things that need to be repaired in the world now. And it doesn't matter whether or not a particular political party or a particular set of people are on board with fixing what is broken. What is broken needs to be fixed, and we'll fix it regardless of who chooses to help and who chooses to stand on the sidelines. And that's the biggest thing that I just hope gets out to the rest of the world, because I've internalized it, but not everyone has, which is, it doesn't matter if some group that you used to be part of does or does not do the thing, if you do the thing, right? The worst thing that can happen to you is you get caught up in this argument over, like, fighting over a Twitter account, or arguing on the internet, or getting your comments out on some like news story about something that happened. We exist to make this world a better place, right? We exist. The reason we exist is to repair what is broken. That doesn't come from yelling at Angela McArdle, no matter how stupid she might be, which I've heard might be quite a large level. But it doesn't matter. What matters is, do we get the taxes reduced? Do we get the weed legalized? Do we open more public charter schools?
Do we make people's lives better?
What are we doing for people? Who gives a fuck whether or not this lady runs, some 527? It doesn't matter. And that's the thing that I hope people will internalize, is it's more important what you do than what party you're part of, or what your membership status is, or any of that. It doesn't matter, right? What gets done matters, not who's mad at you or what title you have. What gets done matters. And if there's one thing that the Libertarian Policy Institute and the foundation can kind of push out there, is this idea that we would unite with anybody to do right and with nobody to do wrong. If there's something that needs to be done, we'll work on it. And if it's the wrong thing to do, we'll oppose you. And that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk about the difference between the institute and the foundation, for Libertarian Policy Institute and Libertarian Policy Foundation.
So the Libertarian Policy Foundation is the educational arm. It's the 501c3, if you know that kind of IRS bullshit. You can give money to it. It's tax deductible. If you're one of those people that has an IRA and you need to give money before the end of the year, we're like a bucket you can put that money into. We do the educational side of it, right? We teach people how to be an advocate, be a champion within their community, run for office, talk to their city council, do all those things. The Libertarian Policy Institute is a 501c4, which is still a nonprofit, but a little more, punchy, right? So LPI can go out and say, we need to have more people run in this state, and we can recruit people. Or we can go out and say, that person ought to lose because they're not supporting our thing. And then we have various PACs that we work with to kind of do the very direct, David's running for office and we're going to send a bunch of postcards to his constituents. That kind of thing crosses another line. So one of the deals with our country and the tax code is there are benefits to being in certain boxes. And so we just stopped fighting it, right? We just went very kind of woo way and went, we'll go with the flow. If you want our educational arm to be a C3, we'll make it a C3. And you want our advocacy arm to be a C4, we'll do that. And, if we have to do political stuff through PACs, we'll do that too, right? we're trying to use as many of the tools that are available because there's no reason we should fight this fight with our hands behind our back, right? We're already not the majority. We might as well, use every tool that's at our disposal.
Absolutely. I will say, I know that you are a stoic, and you talk about that.
I try.
Try to be. I think everyone's journey is to try and stay on that path. But even though you had moments during the online convention in 2020, I've never seen someone not explode. I mean, I was screaming at the camera. And I know you had moments, and I know you had moments during the in-person convention as well, and probably dropped one of my favorite lines during your speech, your final speech of the convention. Your boos mean nothing. I see what you cheer for. But yeah, you've always been in the face of absolute evil. Sometimes you have remained remarkably calm in a lot of that, and are an example that should be followed when it comes to leadership.
That's really kind of you to say. I mean, here's the deal. I just, I don't want to let anybody break my stride. If you know that
Yes.
song, yeah, you're mad, right? You're mad. You want the party to go a different direction. You don't like me. You don't like the anti-racist shit. You don't like whatever it is that you don't like about me. But letting that be personal, letting that be about me, just gives power to other people. And that's the part that I reject, right? Like, sure, you're going to yell at whoever's the chair of the Libertarian Party, right? You're going to yell at me because you don't like me. That's cool. That doesn't bother me, right? What bothers me, what makes me upset about what has happened over the last, 1, 2, 3 years with the Libertarian Party is not that people took it in a direction that wasn't great, right? Because that happens. People go a direction they don't like. It is what it is. It's that they're really losing sight of what we're supposed to do at all, right? We're supposed to present a third option within the U.S. political system that is strong enough to actually move the needle, right? Not by winning, but by really creating pressure from a direction where it's going to make people change their minds. And this internal focus of who's in charge, who's on the LNC, and what do the bylaws say, and all this other bullshit, it's so distracting from the actual work we need to do. That's what makes me upset, right? Like, I don't care who's the chair of the LNC. I care about whether or not the LNC is doing anything that's actually going to hit the world, right? Like, to matter, to have a reason why we should even give our money or our time. Like, are we impacting what the world looks like, or are we deliberately staying on the sidelines? And my fear from some people who come in is that they want to deliberately stay on the sidelines for 2024 in an attempt to try and help Trump by not being on the field. And that's just, it's sad.
Yeah.
Because you're giving up your power, right? We have a power as an independent, non-aligned party. We can push things in our direction. And giving that power up voluntarily to benefit one of the old party candidates is just,
It's a waste of 50. I mean, 50. 2
it's
years.
offensive.
Not just the time. It's the amount of volunteer hours, the amount of people who have bled for this party, just to fling it to Donald Trump or fling it to Joe Biden. Either way, I mean, I've long suspected that what would happen in 2024 is that we nominate somebody, or the Mises folks will nominate somebody that then gets to, say, Labor Day, when you can't pull names off of ballots and things like that, and just drop and endorse one of the candidates. That's been my feeling for a long time with what's going to happen in 24. So, yeah, it's a sad thing. I mean, it's sad to watch all those years of people's efforts, people that came long before me and left long before me, and people who have joined after I did and made tremendous contributions. Guys like who's on your board, Ricky Dale Harrington. Those types of people that have made tremendous contributions to moving that needle, making that conversation. That's the most disappointing thing of what's happened and what could happen if things go sideways in 24.
Yeah, but we're not going to let it. Right? Here's the thing. Everybody needs to show up in Washington in May and just turn the thing around. Right? Like, these people can't control a party for any long period of time. They don't know what they're doing. It's clear with every metric that exists, whether it's number of candidates recruited or number of voters or amount of money raised or anything else.
Or just filing paperwork.
On literally every metric.
Yeah.
And there's no cavalry coming for them. Right? Like, there are some people who say that the $500,000 plus or minus that was brought into Reno in 2022 may have come from, I don't know, outside the country somewhere. Some country might have wanted to, upset our political system. But the country that people think might have put some money into that, they've got a lot of other shit going on right now. Apparently, things aren't so great for that country. And I don't see a lot of money showing up to bring a bunch of people to the convention in Washington in 2024. I think the momentum is not moving in our direction, it's not moving in the Mises Caucus direction. It's moving against them. And so I would encourage people to, as much as you might be upset with where the party is, and I'm the first in line to be upset with where the party is, the bones of the house are good. And if we go in there to 2024 in May to Washington and we take the party back, we can clean up this mess pretty fast. Right? It's not as bad as everybody thinks. Like, they've only had it for 2 years. It's not terminal. And I think the big thing is just being happy warriors, right? Don't get bummed about it. Yeah, some shitty people are in charge right now, and they're doing some shitty things, and none of us really want to be part of that. But, this too shall pass. And frankly, we'll fix our problems in our party way faster than the Republicans will fix their problems. They're going to do a whole cycle where they're going to nominate a dude who is probably going to prison. Like, they have to go way farther down the hole before they hit rock bottom. We're ahead of that. So, embrace it. Be happy warriors. Smile more.
Speaking of embracing and being happy warriors, I just like to thank everybody who's here, because it's an enormous turnout today. And guys, there's that like button. There's a subscribe button. All those things. You should click them. You should do the things. Because
smash them.
You should
I've heard you say
smash the
smash.
button.
Smash
Spoken
them.
like somebody who has a teenager at home. But that's exactly it, because that sort of thing, actually, we talk about Amplify. Everybody who likes this broadcast, everybody who subscribes, everybody who helps share it, you are amplifying the voice of this, probably the most rational conversation that was published on the internet today. So please do all of those things. And
It's not a high
now
bar, though.
it's not a high bar.
High praise.
Is it quiz time, Dave?
I do believe it's quiz time, but let me first off
Ooh.
thank you, Nick, for joining us this week. It's always great to have you on the show. Last time we had you on, we were talking about criminal justice reform in the wake of the George Floyd murder, and it was a good time back then. And you're always welcome to come on the show and talk about whatever you want to talk about.
It's a lot less Debbie Downer.
What's that? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, but we do a thing every week where we talk about the news of the week. We do the CNN weekly news quiz.
Ooh, shit.
Yeah, so you're going to be quizzed.
There's a contest. I'm ready.
There is content, and let me share the screen right quick. So last week we went 10 out of 10. Didn't have a guest, so you got big shoes to fill on this
So
one.
don't drag us down, Nick.
Yeah.
I will do my best.
And even though I stopped sharing the chat, you are welcome to put your answers. Let me scroll all the way to the bottom here, so I can we can share your answers as you come up with them. So, 5 Things News Quiz. This one came on Thursday, so anything that's happened on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday is not part of this quiz, but it is the quiz of the week. So our context clues, we've got Disneyland, Disney World. I'm not really sure which one that is. That is the Iranian hostages being brought back, Volodymyr Zelensky before the UN. So we know we're going to get the questions on those 3 things. So let's hit it. Question number 1. Which group of unionized workers walked off their jobs recently in an unprecedented strike? Is it nurses?
United Auto Workers.
Auto workers. Yeah. AJ actually messaged me about that in Tennessee.
And
Yes,
Joe
Memphis
Biden.
and Spring Hill.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And Joe Biden went to the picket line, I think, this weekend.
Did he get on the picket line?
He has. I mean, this is
my
a very
understanding is that
obvious, solid opportunity.
Well,
he got to stand with union workers.
My understanding is that he was in Flint, Michigan, standing in line, but it was the Greyhound bus line. He was unaware of where he was. And
Oh, my.
All right, auto workers.
Yeah, so auto workers, thousands of auto workers are on strike against GM, Ford, and Stellantis. I don't know what Stellantis is, which make cars for, they make cars for Chrysler. Dodge.
Stellantis, yeah, it's formerly Chrysler.
Okay.
Is that the new Chrysler?
Yeah, it's actually owned by a foreign consortium.
Is it Fiat?
Interesting. All right. So,
Fix it again,
first time in
Tony.
history, the UAW union has struck all of the 3 big automakers at the same time. So, interesting times. Your price of cars are going to go up for a little bit. So, until that gets resolved.
Yay!
I mean, not a ton, but if it lasts for a while, it will definitely happen. But question number 2: which Republican presidential candidate has said he makes plans to skip the second GOP primary debate in California?
Oh gosh,
Is it Ron?
I'm gonna.
Vivek, Donald, or Pence?
I am gonna go with Donald. Yeah,
It's got to be, right?
Gotta be
I don't
Donald.
know.
Why would you debate?
He's got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
He's got
why
he's
would
got
you
nothing to gain.
participate in anything ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like literally, like he's gonna be in prison and get nominated.
Right.
Is it Donald? Did I win?
It is Donald.
Yay!
President Trump skipped the first Republican primary debate. We'll also skip the second one on Wednesday.
Can you scroll up to that picture again, Dave?
Giant pussy. That's why.
What is on the podium there?
FRCA Action or
What is that?
FRCAction.org.
I don't want to know.
Let's see.
It's
I'll look it up.
It's probably porn.
Fucking Republican crazy action. I mean, I'm just throwing ideas.
Find a Republican cock. I don't know. Something like that.
All right. Question number 3.
Oh my
Which
God!
product-
I wish I hadn't looked it up.
Oh no.
But I'm not even going to talk about it.
Which product in the United States recently climbed to the highest price of the year? To its highest price of the year: gasoline, coffee, butter, or eggs?
Ooh, I'm gonna go with.
Gas is pretty expensive. I don't know. It's most of the year.
I think we're gonna go with coffee. Is coffee?
I can tell you,
James says moonshine, which I wish was
No.
a choice.
not
but
a choice, James.
And gasoline is very high, but I feel like
Eggs
maybe coffee.
is super cheap right now.
Eggs dropped. Yeah.
So
I'm gonna go with coffee. It's probably wrong, but let's see.
Janice says coffee. I don't drink coffee, so I wouldn't know that if it was. So, oh, it's gas. Heidi
Man,
had it.
that's very expensive gas.
Yeah, gas prices increased to their highest level of the year Monday to $3.88 a gallon, according to AAA. 11 states are averaging more than $4 a gallon, and in California, the price is now $5.80. Ouch. Sorry,
That's a
Janice.
lot. Sorry about that.
Janice said coffee, even though she lives in California.
I mean, maybe
Janice,
it's more expensive in Northern California.
Yes, it's a good
Everything's so great in California, it doesn't matter how much the gas costs.
Right.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah. All right.
Hey.
Question number 4. World leaders gathered at the annual United Nations General Assembly Summit this week. Where is Jesus Christ? Where is the UN headquartered?
I think we got to throw this one out to the audience.
Gosh, what are my choices?
London, Geneva, Paris, or New York City?
I'm gonna go with New York City.
New York City.
I'm not a
All
moron.
right, I got a better one.
Get a rope.
What is Jesse Jackson's nickname for New York City?
Oh no, we're not going to do that.
Okay, all right. I don't want to get your show banned, Dave.
Oh my lord.
AJ doesn't know, but it was a racist term.
It was a very racist joke.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Very, very anti-Semitic.
All right, New York is right.
New York's right, of course. I mean,
Are you saying
could pick
Hymietown?
Geneva.
Yes.
Are you trying to say Hymietown?
Yes, exactly.
It's a terrible thing. No one should say that.
Nobody should say that. Although, if you want to search up the SNL sketch where he sings an apology, it's fantastic.
Don't want to.
No.
All right, well, we got
Question
number 5.
Question number 5. The U.S. government is relaunching a program that will provide which item to American households at no expense?
Well, if it's gas, it's a really good time for that program.
A bottled water, baby formula, COVID-19 tests, or internet routers?
COVID test.
I'm going to go with COVID-19 tests.
Got to be.
Because
none of the others have ever been free.
Yeah.
So,
relaunching.
Again, yes.
Yeah.
Did I win?
You did win.
Who's the wiener?
Anthony Weiner. U.S. households will order up to 4 free COVID tests starting Monday. Yay.
Fun.
I should just order them to get some of my tax money back, I guess. Question number 6. Approximately how many refugees have been admitted to the U.S. this year? 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, or 50,000?
It's unfair to stick this one on Nick without telling him that whenever they ask us a question, it's always either the least or the most. It's never the middle number.
Okay.
Which is going to be the middle number?
It's 30 or 50, but let's go with 50.
I was going to say, I happen to know that yesterday, 8,000 came across.
Wow.
Yesterday.
Was it 50?
So, yeah.
I'm saying just yesterday, in one day, 8,000 people crossed in El Paso.
Yeah, it's got to be 50.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Let's make sure.
Come on.
Have been admitted.
Come on.
Refugees and admission, that might be more of a legal term that we've admitted them.
It is, but there's humanitarian parole for Venezuelans.
Yeah. All right. So let's do 50. And it is 50,000. More than 50,000 refugees have been admitted to the U.S. this year. According to the latest federal data, President Biden has set this year's refugee ceiling at 125,000 and considering raising the number of refugees who could be admitted to the U.S. this year.
Yeah.
Make it unlimited.
Yeah.
Like, really, what's the difference between people coming here from Mexico or Canada versus people, driving from Massachusetts or California? Like, really, what's the difference?
Right.
There's no difference.
Right, exactly.
Yesterday, I went to a party in Virginia. I crossed, into Maryland, into D.C., into Arlington, Virginia, then back. So I went through several state borders.
How many
There was no problem. There were no
checkpoints,
checkpoints. There were some.
What?
There were some police out there.
They let you come through?
But yeah, I did not have to show papers
this
anywhere.
is poor security.
I know.
Yeah, really. I mean, like,
Letting West Virginians roam freely is dangerous. So
Right.
Mountain Mama.
I mean, right. West Virginia's population 1.3 million people with 800,000 toothbrushes. So
that's right. All right, question number 7. The U.S. made a deal with which country to free 5 wrongly detained Americans?
I will say I'm going to slightly
Loaded.
Yeah,
that they're
exactly.
wrongfully
I had the same thing. I'm going to say that's a little pejorative there.
But it's totally Iran.
But it's
money.
I mean, Iran will throw people in jail on charges. Now, I will say all 5. I don't know because 2 of them did not want to have their identities revealed when they came back. And my guess is those were probably spies.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Iran. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Iran.
it is definitely Iran.
Yeah.
Yeah. 5 Americans released, and yeah, so a $6 billion deal to
A
unfreeze
mere
Iran.
$6 billion.
Yeah.
I want to give.
But it was unfreezing their assets. It wasn't like we were just donating it from our treasury.
Much like the whole thing with Ukrainian military aid. It's not that we're giving them the new stuff. We're giving them the old stuff that's already bullshit.
So we can buy new stuff in our new defense budget.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, question number 8. Which animal made an unexpected appearance at Disney World this week, prompting temporary closure of several rides?
I know this
Crocodile.
one.
I don't know, but it was like 2 weeks ago we were at Disney World and we missed this. But I am going to say it is probably... Ooh, this is a tough one.
Heidi says bear.
Go with...
Yeah.
What?
Heidi said bear.
Oh, man. I was going to go with wolf, but now I'm...
Which one is this? Is this Florida or California?
It's Florida.
Wolf is Florida.
And I can tell you guys, I know for a fact it's a bear.
Well, let's try bear.
Crazy as that sounds.
This guy knows for a fact.
Yep.
It is a
this
bear.
expert not here.
All right. Bear prompted partial closure at Walt Disney's World's Magic Kingdom Monday.
All right.
Captured without incident and is being relocated.
Who knew that there were bears in Florida?
What is the name of the bear in the Jungle Book in the Disney movie?
Baloo.
Yes. Nice job, Nick. Extra point.
What are we doing with this? Come on.
All right. Question number 9. Which country may be officially changing its name? Ooh, I didn't know. I've not heard this one. India, Pakistan, Somalia, or Uzbekistan?
I think it's going to be...
I see orange. I see green. That's India. I just have not heard India changing their name.
I think those are people.
I thought it was going to be Pakistan or Somalia. Let's go with Somalia. Let's try.
Let's see.
Let's see what happens.
We got India from the audience. We've got Somalia. We've got India.
Got one for each.
I have no
Uzbekistan,
idea.
India. Some nutty idea of Modi. Okay, that actually makes sense.
I would have.
Then let's go with India.
Guessed
do
Uzbekistan, but I don't.
Let's
We should
take
go
the
with
audience's. What do they say? Is it working?
What's that?
Is it India?
Let's see. It is India. What?
Wow.
What?
Various media outlets are reporting that India's Modi regime may want to put forward a resolution soon to change the country's name to Bharat.
Wow.
Right. That's something.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably some ancient connection there. It's probably very Hindu because he is very Hindu nationalist. So
He is pretty Hindu.
yeah. All right, question number 10, and for 9
Last
out of 10
question.
this week. Archaeologists recently unearthed the oldest known structure in the world. What material was it made of? Wood,
UFO
bronze,
flying saucer ship.
steel, or marble?
I'm going to go with oldest known structure in the
I'm
world.
going to say marble.
Let's say wood.
I'm going to say
I
marble.
also like wood. That
like
sounded
wood.
wrong.
Yeah, it did sound wrong.
Well, it sounded right. And if it's wrong, you don't want to be right.
That's right.
Exactly.
Heidi says
It just
marble.
seems to
Heidi
me
says
that
marble.
wood was easiest to manipulate, and wood underwater is preserved indefinitely. So,
Well, you think it's water?
no, I'm saying that
Where-
wood, like wood left in the air, would decay. But if it were wood underwater, it can be preserved almost
Or is
indefinitely. So,
petrified by some
yeah.
other forces. All right, let's try wood. It is wood.
Yay!
Yay!
The simple wooden structure was found along a riverbank in Zambia, almost 500,000 years old. Woo,
That's a long
that is
damn
a
time.
long time.
All right,
But only a
9
blink
out
of
of
an eye
10.
in the grand scheme of things as far as the universe.
I have never had wood for 500,000 years.
If you do,
Call a
consult
doctor.
your doctor. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Easy setup.
All right, we got 9 out of 10, which means we'll have you back sometime.
Yep.
That is your prize. All right.
This was fun.
Well-
what else do you guys want to talk about?
Let's see. What other news stories?
You know, there's a couple interesting things about it. I know LPI, you guys have been focused on the grocery tax and educating activists and amplifying messages. What do you think are the issues that people are talking about when you go out there and hear them that are resonating, sort of things that if you were a Liberty person, you ought to listen for this conversation because you've got something to add for it? Is it something that you hear people talking about?
Yeah, there's a few. Zoning reform is one that is kind of in that lane of things that aren't getting done by other political parties, right? Or by the dominant parties, where people want there to be more housing, but the Democrats and the Republicans that are in office have a lot of reasons to not let there be more housing.
And a lot of
Zoning
donors.
reform, qualified immunity
Yeah.
is a big one,
Sure.
right? Like civil asset forfeiture. These things where the people who are in charge right now don't have any accountability. That's one that's not getting fixed unless you come from outside the system,
Right.
right? It's the people who are in charge right now aren't fixing it. You know, nobody in California with the corrections officer union, the way it is there, is shutting down prisons. That's not a thing.
How much
But we should totally shut down prisons.
do you think it's important to find a sexy way to talk about some of these things?
I don't think it has to be sexy. It just has to be basic and focused on what makes things better for families, right? Like, you know, Gretzky always talked about go where the puck's gonna be, not where it is.
Mm,
And where I see the puck going to be is things that work for dads and moms. Like, it's not just suburban soccer moms. That was a very like isolated group of people in a previous election cycle. But in a post Dobbs era, where all of the abortion trigger laws and the bans and the total bans that don't have any exceptions all came in, dads and moms are looping back to the other side, right? Even in the September of the year that Dobbs came down, you had +2, +4 Republican for men on a generic congressional ballot. But if you split it out by dads, it went like +22 Democrat.
Interesting.
Because if you have a wife or a girlfriend or a daughter who could be forced to have the baby of their rapist, it's just not like, it breaks shit in your brain, right? You're just not okay with it. And that's why the Republicans are so scrambling right now to try and like come up with some other way to talk about being pro-life. Like, it's really unpopular. Well, no shit. When you want to put people in prison for trying to like stop a 12-year-old from having a rape baby, yeah, not great, not popular. No, not so great.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we're going, is the 2024 election cycle is going to be determined by dads, right? It's going to be things that make things better for families or things that make things worse for families. And it's very much like, it's almost like a back to basics, right? We're not talking about culture war issues. We're talking about, you know, are the schools good and are the roads good? And, you know, does your daughter have to have the rape baby?
I mean, I do wonder on some of the cultural war issues, though, with some dads that they, you know, will side with Republicans when it comes to things like transgender bans and things like that. Now, dads who have experience with kids who are transgender will be much more supportive, but at least from my reading of what's going on, you know, and I will readily admit the fact that I'm in an incredibly red state, that, you know, the reactions here are more towards that culture war, fighting the abortions, fighting the transgender stuff in the legislature, and it's popular here. That's the dumb thing about it.
So one of the things that I learned when I was first starting to represent people who were charged with crimes is that if the jury can't see your client as a person like them, where there but for the grace of God they could be, then they can't acquit your client, right? If they consider them to be other or different from themselves, they can't get to not guilty. It's just not a thing. And so you eliminate people from the jury who can't get there. But this is sort of the difference between, let's say, transgender rights and abortion rights, specifically around rape or incest, is that a lot of people in this country cannot see themselves having someone they love be transgender. We're still at that stage, right, in the grand pantheon, you know, and for gay people, we've gotten past it. That's why Obergefell got done, was we got to the point where we saw those as people. For transgender people, it's not there everywhere.
Right.
But everybody that has a wife and everybody that has a daughter can totally see that wife or daughter being a victim of a sexual assault and having a fetus that is the product of a sexual assault and being really pissed off that that's not something you can fix, right? Like, that's so resonant for so many people. And I recommend, anyone who hasn't watched it, I don't know that I don't have the link right on me. There is a TV ad in the Kentucky race for, I think, governor, that is just Brutal. Like 30 seconds. And it's literally a young woman who had been sexually assaulted by her stepfather and impregnated by her stepfather after years of sexual abuse. And she just comes straight out and says, this guy isn't going to let us have options if that happened. And that's not okay. That's it. That's the whole ad, right? Like no fluff. Just that's a guy that thinks that's okay. I don't think that's okay. And every politician who is still working on a pre-Dobbs version of what the abortion issue is about is screwing it up right now, right? Yeah. It's not a thing you can be neutral about anymore.
We actually got a comment that's very interesting. I'll highlight it here. Though early polling potential participants in Iowa GOP caucus shows a split 61-39 towards men, where it was polling at 52-48 towards men before Donald Trump was elected in 2016. That shows a rather extensive exodus of women from the GOP.
Yeah.
Those are interesting numbers.
It's a dead party. The Republicans will not win another national election for at least 2 cycles.
Until somebody
straight up, I'll put money on it right now.
Yeah, they have a reclamation project. And the problem is that the people who they're trying to reclaim the party from actually just want to burn everything down. They are bent on destruction.
Sounds familiar.
And authoritarianism. And if the things aren't going to be their way, they want to destroy the world. Now,
I mean, a couple months ago, or maybe it was last month, the Arizona State Republican Party was down to like $80 in their bank account.
Right.
And it's like a swing state Republican Party.
Yep. Now, the interesting thing about it, though, is that on the other side of it, we have Tennessee.
Okay, so when let's circle back. When you said any man that has a wife or a daughter can see the connection there, no, they really can't. I promise you, I have been trying for years, at least 20 of them, trying to convince men that rape is a real thing that happens all the time. And that's not a thing in Tennessee. Nobody believes you in Tennessee. And honestly, they're more likely to say, but what about that innocent baby that was created? They will argue the rights of that baby over the child that was raped every single time. Yep. I've wasted my breath. I'm not even bothering because they absolutely refuse to see the possibility. And the big thing with Republicans here, now we have a race between Marsha Blackburn and Gloria Johnson has entered the race. She's one of the Tennessee 3, so she's going to run against Marsha Blackburn. This is very exciting. As soon as she announced her candidacy, Marsha Blackburn dropped an ad that was talking about late-term abortion and how Democrats are all for late-term abortions. I'm a nurse. Late-term abortions don't happen unless there is a problem, and nobody wants to make that choice. Nobody has decorated a nursery. Nobody has planned for 7 or 8 months for this baby. And then come to find out they can't have this baby because something's wrong. Right. Late-term abortions are medical care. Abortions at any point in time are medical care. As far as I'm concerned, Tennessee is also really against transgender people. Because these are medical decisions. Now, I'm not a member of the Libertarian Party, and I will never be a member of the Libertarian Party again, but I will always carry the idea that medical decisions should never involve the government. Governor Lee, he sold refrigerators and freezers. I'm not going to ask him about my fucking uterus. It's just not going to happen. That's stupid, right? I'm not going to ask him about y'all either. I'm not going to ask him about kidney disease or the price of insulin. He shouldn't be in charge of these things because he doesn't have any idea. the Republican legislature in Tennessee, especially, has gone way beyond anything that the government should be in charge of, honestly.
No, and the backlash is coming. I mean, that's the thing is if you look at every special election, if you look at every statewide referendum subsequent to Dobbs, the Democrats have overperformed historical averages by like between 7 and 12%. Right? They've 11 out of the last 12 specials in New Hampshire have gone Democratic. Even in
Wow.
places where they weren't winning
Wow.
before, because it really broke something. Dobbs broke something, right? Because here's kind of how it went down. For about 20, 30 years, if you were a Republican candidate, you could pass a shitty, terrible abortion ban law and go, well, I passed it to show how pro-life I am, but it'll never go into effect because Roe v. Wade's in place and the Supreme Court's going to stop it. And then Dobbs comes down and all of those bills, all those laws that got passed drop into place. And it changed what the normal thing was, right? Like the traditional thing, you've had this experience, I've had this experience, everyone's had this experience. You talk to somebody who's a pro-lifer and they'll say, well, I just care about life, but I wouldn't want to stop somebody who was raped or had a child as a product of incest from having an abortion. I'm compassionate and I don't want, all this draconian stuff. And that was okay while Roe was in place, right? They could say that. But now when they say that, you're like, hey, that's cool. You don't like that. But the law that actually exists and the cops that actually come and arrest people think differently. And now you're stuck trying to defend that shit. And it's not defensible. It is not defensible. Kansas, Ohio, all of these states where they've tried to like do stuff post Dobbs, they get smacked in the face.
Even West Virginia tried to do something in the last election. Yeah.
Literally, women's bodily autonomy is a big damn deal. And I think Republicans misunderestimated how big a damn deal it was.
Right.
Because it's not a right or left thing. It's a you can't make me have a rape baby thing. And that's a big damn deal. And this thing about, well, maybe 1,000 rape babies have to be born to avoid 640,000, like other babies not being born or blah, 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 blah.
It's bullshit.
It goes nowhere with real people. Real people are like, I don't give a shit. You can look legit. I got a 12-year-old. I have a 12-year-old daughter. If my daughter gets raped and you tell me that my daughter has to have a rape baby, there will be a medical problem, but it's probably yours. Maybe dental. I would not recommend trying to enforce that law in my house. It's not a good place to be.
Well, in Tennessee, the Attorney General is literally getting medical records, and he's getting medical records from Vanderbilt, but he's also going for records for any women that travel outside of the state, just in
Right,
case.
the travel thing, that's a whole new thing. This goes back to Civil War shit, right? Like one of the precipitating causes of the Civil War, not a lot of people know this, was abolitionist literature being mailed into Confederate states. And this whole argument of whether or not the postmaster could stop this abolitionist literature from being mailed, right? The restriction on people traveling from state to state to achieve some other policy goal from the state that they're in. We've done this before. it ain't going to go good for these state governors. They're like, oh, we're going to totally arrest you for like traveling out of state for an abortion. That ain't going to work.
No, it's not going to
Well,
work, but
I
it's
mean,
enough that it is scared. It's terrifying. Like living here is terrifying right now. It's not,
one is
there was a
it's
question
driving medical
earlier.
professionals out.
Yeah, I mean, we are losing most of our rural hospitals. My town does not have an OBGYN. Like we've always had a couple different choices. We've always had options. We don't have that anymore. And it's not unusual. Like West Tennessee, there's one hospital in like 500 miles, and that one hospital delivers babies, but that's it. There is no OBGYN care. There's no the prenatal care. They only deliver the babies. How far are these people having to travel? And I mean, you have children, and I'm sure you don't have to discuss details of pregnancies, but when something goes wrong in a pregnancy, you need care now because there's two patients on the line. I don't like OB work because it terrifies me. I go from one patient to multiple patients. I don't like that crap. That's not cool. Other people are very, very trained in that. And those are the people you want to get to. But they are leaving in droves. They are leaving Tennessee because they can't help their patients or they face prosecution because they're not going after the people having abortions. They're not going after the rapists because God knows we cannot process a rape kit in Tennessee. That shit ain't going to happen. But we can absolutely go after the doctors and the providers. And now they're talking about birth control and IUDs. Like that is something that's going to happen. To answer a question earlier, there was somebody that said, are the cities trying, the Democrats are trying between the gerrymandering, the ballot access, and they already started 10 steps behind. So we'll see what they are able to accomplish this next time around. I don't know.
No, it's going to be. So this is the thing, whether it's Tennessee and abortion or whether it's the Libertarian Party and the Mises Caucus, these things do not resolve themselves immediately. And it sucks up to the point that they get fixed. But with both of those things, what you can count on is that the new status quo is not acceptable to a supermajority of people who are within that group, right? There's a supermajority of Tennesseans who are not okay with this. There's a supermajority of libertarians who are not okay with how the party is being run right now.
Yeah.
And it's gonna change. It just, it takes a while and it's not fun on the way through that, because a lot of what that change means is stuff like, families moving out of Florida or Texas or Tennessee, right? That's part of what the thing is, right? It has to it gets worse before it gets better.
Yeah. And there's all this other, there are examples of this too. I mean, this is civil rights again. Okay. It took a long time for Georgia and Tennessee and Alabama and Arkansas to recognize the writing on the wall that, civil rights was happening. And it does require people to take some strenuous effort at times. But that's the point of what we're doing, talking about things, not letting the issue be swept under the table. When there's a chance to support a candidate that stands up for something good. And I know that you do have some good candidates in Tennessee. The 3 people who got kicked out, stuff like that. There's something going on there. And it's just a question of figuring out what is the next way. I am, however, going to step in as my official timekeeper for the show and tell you all once more to like, click, and subscribe to ensure that we keep getting great guests. Smash it, like Nick. And then, Nick, do you want to say anything? How do we find out more about LPI?
Sure. The libertarianpolicy.org is the URL to go to. If you want to visit the Libertarian Policy Institute or Libertarian Policy Foundation, we have one URL that we share. We would love to have support from people who want to put their financial contribution towards something that's doing the actual work right now, if other organizations might not be. I've heard there are some problems there. And we are also having, we just did the Biloxi Amplify training yesterday. We did Long Beach 2 weeks ago out in California. And the Northeast Amplify training is coming up in Massachusetts next week on the 30th. So if you know anybody in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Maine, anywhere up there where it's close, this is going to be the only one in the Northeast this year. And, you know, one of the things that we're focused on, you know, when people apply for our training, we tell them, you know, we don't care whether or not you're part of a caucus or part of a party or whatever. Just leave that shit at the door, right? We're teaching you how to run for office, run a campaign to push a policy agenda. We don't really care what sports team you root for or which caucus you're part of or any of that. You leave that at the door. This is about uniting with anybody to do right and with nobody to do wrong. And so it's been a very good experience with people who have come from the Mises Caucus. I mean, just to put a fine point on it. And they have had the experience of realizing that we're just there to help them be better at getting stuff done, right? And we're not there to fight these stupid internal political fights. So libertarianpolicy.org, that's the place to sign up, become a sustaining member, you know, provide us some of your money so we can spend it on doing good things, and keep track of what we're doing. You know, we're focused on the good stuff.
Well, that is awesome. I appreciate you coming on the show this week. Knowing you has always been a pleasure, and working with you on various projects and as a state chair, and working with Valerie on the affiliate support committee as members of the LNC. Can't go a show without giving Valerie a shout out, because she is the better Sarwark, we'll say.
Not that hard.
But yeah, we love Valerie. So, but again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. Love the work that you're doing. Consider supporting LPI. They're doing good work. And thanks everyone for joining us tonight. We had a great, lively discussion in the chat. Des and Connie and Janice and Craig and Facebook user. So next time you do the show, they do give you the option to kind of link your account, your Facebook account, to Restream. Do that, and your name will show up next time. But give us the like, share, subscribe, smash that button. And I appreciate everyone watching this week. And next week we will have a free-for-all show, and encourage you to join us for that. We'll talk to you next week. Have a great one, everybody.
Say goodnight, Gracie.
Good night,
Good night,
Grace.
Gracie.
Like this.